0535305. We still have the co-founder and CEO of Clean Tech Hub Nigeria in the studio, and we've been discussing about clean energy and what circularity means in Nigeria. So we'll just go on to talk about the research that you do at your hub and policies you've been working on. So how has that been?
That's been great. I mean, we do 5 things at Clean Technology Hub. Research is one of them. We do advocacy and trainings. We work with governments, state and federal governments, and even municipality governments. We also run a livelihood program where we teach our street business school, which is what I explained. We teach people how to use the electricity, and then we do research, with enterprise development, which is teaching small businesses that want to start clean energy or climate friendly businesses how to do it and how to put their structures in place. And circularity is part of how we also do those trainings. In terms of the research that we've done, in 2020 we were funded by an impact investor called Olon to summarize all of the laws and regulations and policies that look after the renewable energy sector into sizable bits, because most of these regulations are very large and dense, some of them going to 200, 300 pages. So we're able to summarize, I think, about 13 of them into 10 to 12 pages, where somebody who's a decision maker or a business person, an investor, can, and it was like in a pull out, whatever, so you can pull out the parts that really is interesting to you, but can look at that document, those 10 or 12 pages, and make a business decision about whether this might be worth them getting into. And those policies included things like the mini grid policy, the local content policy in the electricity sector. I've already talked about what we're doing in Delta State.
Yes.
That's also one. We're drafting it from scratch and working together with civil society and the government and the business sector in Delta State to do that. But we also have other research pieces that people ask us to do. So market research, market intelligence research, business intelligence research, academic research. We get published in journals as a research center, and we partner with a lot of research institutions, both universities in Europe, America, and Canada. So we have a lot, that if you look on our website, you can download quite a number of the research we've done since 2018 to date.
I'll definitely take a look at research. I think research is the bane of being very functional. Research helps you understand the situation, like the Nigerian context, and then how to provide solutions or prefer solutions to some of them. So I just want to ask whether there are a lot of professionals in your field, and if there are, how do you differentiate your services?
How do we stand out?
Yeah, how do we stand out?
No, I think that's a good question. One of the things and I should say this, is gender is integral to what we do, So when I started in this electricity sector, it's not very common to find women, working in this sector. And then even in the renewable energy sector, when I came in, it was maybe 3 or 4 women, who used to be at the top on panels, speaking panels, and all of those things. That has changed. We have now more women who are running CEOs of renewable energy companies in Nigeria and grooming the next set of leaders who will take over. I say this because, now everybody talks about gender in the energy sector. It's now sexy to talk about gender in the energy sector. It wasn't that way 5-6 years ago when we were saying it, and in fact we were often dismissed. So when people talk about energy and gender, our organization gets mentioned a lot. That's one way we've been able to differentiate ourselves. But that was not the aim. We're not doing it to differentiate ourselves. We actually did believe that there should be women in this industry. Because how can you be creating something that is so important like electricity, a service that is so important like electricity, and half of the population that we use it are not included in the decision making, in leadership position, in the way that the electricity sector is being shaped and mapped. So it was important for us. The other thing that we've done very well is to infuse innovation into some of the things we do. We are called the Energy Innovation Center because we try to think outside the box. So we've introduced new thinking and new research into things like electric vehicle and e-mobility. We're one of the first that's talking about that and doing that in Nigeria. We're also doing things around green hydrogen. It's even new in Europe, but we're already doing work around that in Nigeria. And then we're also talking about things like clean cooking, which has become a huge issue. It's a big topic across sub-Saharan Africa. How do we get women to be more involved or to have more access to clean cooking? So it's by taking a step back, thinking and asking ourselves, how else can we make it easier for people to access, energy, and how do we get to people who are underserved or unserved, and who then do we need to talk to make sure this is possible? So a lot of ideation sessions. We do a lot of ideation sessions to create that innovation and reach the people that we need to reach.
So my next question is on the Oxfam EDC program. Firstly, I want to know how important is learning to you in your journey in entrepreneurship, and how do you make a conscious effort to constantly learn or acquire new knowledge? And what was your experience during the Oxfam EDC program?
It was a life-changing, a business transformation experience for us. What we did after the program really was to come back, break down all the material, and then do a training for the staff that were not opportune to go. The Oxfam EDC program also provided us with consultants over a period of 6 months, who came in and dissected every aspect of our business, and even worked with me as a leader, and gave me some practical coaching, advice and tips and tools in terms of how I manage myself and how I manage my team and how I can grow my team. And that was really, really helpful, because one of the things I struggled with before the Oxfam EDC program was I felt like as CEO, I'm supposed to be thinking about the big strategy things, working and getting us more funding. So I didn't used to pay a lot of attention to team issues. I left it for HR solely, which was, I think, a big mistake. And so after the program, I had to do a 180. Yeah, to come back and say, okay, this isn't working. The team isn't happy. They feel like I'm driving them too hard. There isn't any sort of personal relationship. What kind of culture are we trying to build, really? So culture is one of the things that I really, the consultants who came on the HR consultancy really drummed into me. What kind of culture do you want to build? And having those conversations and them even giving me more resources and helping me get into more trainings really helped me do that shift. And I have a happier team and a more self-fulfilled team. The other thing I learned how to do was to hands off and not, hold on too tight, and trust that people will do what they're supposed to do, and not just even try to think about, okay, just trust them a little more and have them run with the idea. So that's what the EDC program did for us, not just for me. Our whole organization is very different from when we did the EDC program a year ago, and I thank them profusely for that opportunity.
So it's nice to see the benefits of one of our programs and how much it has shaped and the learning curve it has impacted on you. So how important is learning, or how important has learning been in your journey? Because
it's absolutely important. I mean, when you're a CEO or when you're in C-suite, you really don't have a lot of time to go back into classrooms and sit down. And we had to do that during the EDC program, right? We had to be in class for about a week, 2 weeks at a stretch, over a period of 6 months. Kept going back and forth to Lagos to do the programs. But it forced us to read. There was a lot of materials and case studies, and it forced us to read and to discuss and to ideate together as a group. And so that was great, that also got us into the mindset of to grow. Learning is a continuous thing. There is no way, even as CEO, that you would know everything. Some of those case studies that we were given at at EDC has also made us begin to document our own stories, right? And write them down so that other people get to read about our own business transformation process. And have this data also available to people to see how we went from we became more sustainable, how we applied circularity, how we're raising more money, how, those sort of things, the kind of partnerships we're building, the sort of alliances we're building. And learning also with your group of cohorts, because we also exchange a lot of information on the WhatsApp group of the cohorts. People are dropping information about new programs you can apply for, new things you can apply for. So learning is actually integral to our growth. We also, we're very, very invested in growing the human capital in our organization. So we send them out for trainings a lot, both paid and unpaid, as a way for them to continue to build their internal capacity. So it's not just investment in me, myself as the leader. It's actually investing. Yes. So every Thursday meeting, we actually take a case study or a problem and dissect it as part of our learning goals.
That is actually very fantastic to hear. Learning is a conscious effort. Everybody needs to be at all level. It never stops. Okay, so we'll be rounding up soon. So I just want to give us like 5 strategic tips that businesses or people listening right now can, adhere to if they want to start thinking sustainability and circularity.
5. Okay, let's see if we can get to 5, Miriam. You're asking so many hard questions today, but it's good. The first I would say is invest in your team and your people. So it goes back to your question about learning and how that is important. If you're not investing, and investing is not just money, it's not just increasing salaries. Having them grow and build their capacity is huge. So if you're thinking about growth as a small or medium-sized business, important to invest in your team and your people, because that's also going to help your cultural transformation. The second thing is also define the culture of the organization. Be very clear about defining it right from the start. And this means that you have to put in all of those structures you talked about earlier, a HR policy, a financial policy. Do you even have an investment policy? What does maternity look like, paternity? People need to know those things because it offers them security, but it also provides structure for you within your organization so that you're not having to make up things on the whim as you're going, and everybody in the organization feels included. Inclusivity is good and protected. And then the third thing is relationship building. You build and service relationships, very important. Don't let the relationships die, because 90% of the businesses that we've had is from the relationships we've already built. And those are the people who are helping us pay our bills. And then consistency is the last one I will mention. Our first grant came in 2 years after we had started. If we had given up, we would not be here where we are now. So remember that we started off with 3 people, we're now 40. But the first 2 years were brutal, and I would encourage any other small business to just keep at it. Your morning will come.
Okay, so we have 5 tips from her on how to start thinking sustainability and circularity. So I'll read it back for them, and they are very, very insightful tips. The first one is to invest in your team and people, not just financially, but also invest in their growth. The second is to define the culture of your organization, because this helps you give a structure and a kind of like uniformity towards achieving your missions and goals of the organization. The third is inclusivity. Try to make your team feel included in the decisions you're making and the steps you're taking. The fourth is to build solid relationships, and always take partnerships, treat partnerships with the same energy you treat your team. Just treat partnerships with importance. And the fifth and final point is to be consistent. Show up every day. It's never easy. It's not always rocky. It's also not always easy, but just be consistent to show up on both the hard days and the easy days. So thank you so much for this
Thank you,
so
Miriam.
would just proceed to just know where we can find you for those that are interested in clean energy or wanting to visit your website or read those reports and research that are contained on your website.
So the clean energy sector, climate change sector is the biggest sector globally now because that's what everybody is talking about. So if you're looking for work, opportunities, or even to volunteer, this is a great sector to think about, whether in renewable energy or climate change. You can find us on www.cleantechnologyhub.com, www.cleantechnologyhub.com, and we're also on Instagram, Clean Technology Hub NG. We're on LinkedIn, Clean Technology Hub NG. We're on Twitter, same Clean Technology Hub, and we're on Facebook, Clean Technology Hub. We even have a TikTok page where we put out videos on Clean Technology Hub. If you want to visit our hub, even though we're in the process of moving, it's 10B Samora Makel at Asokoro here in Abuja.
So you have that www.cleantechnologyhub.com.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and we have come to the end of today's episode. But not to worry, if you missed today's episode, you can log on to www.edc.edu.ng for the repeat. And you can also follow us at Enterprise Development Center, that is Enterprise Development and Center as CENTRE, across all social media platforms. Until next week, stay enterprising, stay healthy, and stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.